You say it every day. I'm fine. 2 words that keep you safe and keep you silent. Someone asks how you're doing, and before you even think, it's already out of your mouth. Automatic, effortless, clean. I'm fine. You say it at work. You say it to your family. You say it to friends who've known you for years, but somehow still believe you. And the strangest part? You've said it so many times you almost believe it yourself. But late at night, when the noise stops and the distractions fade, you feel it, that heaviness, that quiet ache you've been carrying around like a second skeleton. And you realize you're not fine. You haven't been fine in a long time. Quiet confession. There's a version of you that people see, calm, capable, together. You smile at the right moments. You laugh when you're supposed to. You show up. You function. But inside there's another version, the one you don't talk about, the one who feels too much and says too little, the one who's tired of pretending but doesn't know how to stop. Because somewhere along the way you learned that your pain makes people uncomfortable, not in a cruel way, just uncomfortable. So you started folding it up, compressing it, hiding it behind "I'm fine" until it became a reflex. And now when someone asks how you're really doing, you freeze, not because you don't want to answer, but because you've forgotten how. You've practiced being fine for so long that the truth feels foreign, dangerous, like speaking a language you're no longer fluent in. So you smile, you shrug, you say those 2 words again, and you wonder why you feel so alone in a room full of people who care about you. The defense mechanism. Here's what's really happening. Every time you say, "I'm fine," you're not lying. You're protecting yourself. Because at some point you learned that being vulnerable doesn't guarantee being held. It guarantees being seen. And sometimes being seen feels worse than being invisible. Psychologists call this emotional minimalism. It's when you shrink your feelings down to a size that won't scare people away. You don't do it consciously. You do it because you've been let down before. Maybe you opened up once and got advice instead of empathy. Or someone turned your pain into a problem they needed to fix. Or worse, they made it about themselves. So you adapted. You became fluent in fine. You learned to translate your exhaustion into just tired. Your sadness into having an off day. Your loneliness into I've just been busy. Every "I'm fine" is a wall built from old disappointments, and the architecture is perfect. No one can see what you're protecting, not even you sometimes. Because, here's the paradox. The more you say you're fine, the more you start to believe that's all you're allowed to be. You become the person who doesn't complain, who doesn't need anything, who's always okay. And people start to rely on that version of you. They stop asking, they assume, they move on. And you're left holding all of it, alone, quietly breaking under the weight of a mask that was supposed to keep you safe. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." You're not hiding because you're weak. You're hiding because accepting that you're not fine feels like admitting defeat, like proving that you're exactly what you feared you were all along. Too much, not enough, broken. But you're not broken. You're just tired of explaining wounds that people can't see. Emotional proof. Let me tell you about a kid I once knew. He was 7, maybe 8, and one day he came home from school crying. Something small had happened. A friend had said something mean. A game had gone wrong. The kind of thing that feels enormous when you're that age. His mother looked at him, and for a split second he saw it. That flicker of discomfort. That look that said, "Not now." She didn't say it out loud. She didn't have to, she just sighed. Asked if he was okay. And when he kept crying, she said, "You're fine. It's not that big of a deal." And he stopped crying, not because he felt better, but because he learned something in that moment. He learned that his sadness was inconvenient, that it made people tired, that if he wanted to be loved, he needed to be easy, so he stopped showing it. Years later, he's an adult, and when someone asks how he's doing, he says, "I'm fine." Because that 7-year-old is still inside him, still convinced that his pain is a burden no one wants to carry. Here's another story. She's the strong one. In her family, she's the glue. The one who holds it together when everything's falling apart. The one people call when they need support. Advice. A voice of reason. And she loves being that person. It makes her feel useful, needed, valued. But there's a cost. When her own life starts to crumble, when she loses a job, or a relationship ends, or she's drowning in exhaustion, she doesn't tell anyone. Because how can she? She's the strong one, the one who has it together. If she admits she's struggling, she's afraid the whole image will shatter. So she says, "I'm fine." She keeps showing up for everyone else, and slowly, quietly, she disappears into the role she's been playing, and no one notices, because she's too good at pretending. The cost of silence. Here's what happens when you live like this. At first, it feels manageable. You tell yourself you're just being strong, just getting through it, just not making a big deal out of things. But over time, something shifts. You start to notice that you can't remember the last time you told someone how you really feel, that you've become a spectator in your own life, that the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be has grown so wide, you're not sure which one is real anymore. You've built a personality out of pretending to be okay, and the cost? It's steep. You lose the ability to ask for help, because asking feels like admitting failure. You lose intimacy, because real connection requires honesty, and you've been performing for so long you've forgotten what honesty even looks like. You lose trust, not just in other people but in yourself, because every time you say "I'm fine" when you're falling apart, you're telling yourself that your feelings don't matter. And slowly, you start to believe it. You become numb, detached. You function but you don't feel. You survive but you don't live, and the worst part? You don't even realize it's happening, because "I'm fine" is a soft lie. It doesn't feel like deception. It feels like protection. But every time you say it, you bury your voice a little deeper until one day, you wake up and realize you don't even know who you are anymore. You've become a compilation of what other people need you to be. A version of yourself designed to be palatable, safe, easy to love. But the real you, the messy, complicated, hurting you, that version has been locked away for so long it started to feel like a stranger. And that's when the loneliness becomes unbearable. Not because you're alone, but because you're surrounded by people who only know the mask, and you realize you've never felt more invisible in your life. Compassionate realization. But here's what I need you to understand. You're not weak for hiding your pain. You're not broken for pretending to be fine. You are not failing because you can't seem to let people in. You are surviving the only way you know how. And that's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to be recognized, honored, understood. Because the truth is, you didn't wake up one day and decide to become this person. You became this person because the world taught you that your vulnerability was a problem, that your emotions were too much, too heavy, too complicated. So you made yourself smaller, quieter, easier, and you've been doing it for so long. It's become muscle memory. But here's what no one tells you. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be seen. Not the version of you that smiles through everything. Not the version that says "I'm fine" and moves on. The real version, the one that's tired, scared, hurting. That version deserves to exist too. And the people who truly love you, they're not waiting for you to be perfect. They're waiting for you to be real. But here's the hardest part. You have to be real with yourself first. You have to stop pretending that carrying everything alone is strength. It's not. It's survival, and survival is exhausting. You have to stop convincing yourself that your feelings are too much. They're not. They're just feelings, and they're trying to tell you something. You have to stop believing that being vulnerable will push people away, because the right people, they'll move closer, and the ones who don't, they were never meant to hold you in the first place. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about unbecoming everything you're not. It's about peeling back the layers of "I'm fine" and remembering what it feels like to tell the truth, even if your voice shakes, even if it's messy, even if it's just a whisper. Because the moment you stop pretending, you stop living half alive. Healing Reframe. So what do? You start small. Next time someone asks how you're doing, and that automatic "I'm fine" starts to rise in your throat, pause, just for a second, and ask yourself, what do I actually feel right now? You don't have to say it out loud, not yet. Just name it, privately, honestly, tired, overwhelmed, sad, lonely, afraid. That's the first step. Not fixing, not performing, just acknowledging. Because honesty doesn't start with other people. It starts with you. And once you start being honest with yourself, something shifts. You realize that your feelings aren't the problem. The silence is. You realize that the people who care about you aren't waiting for you to be perfect. They're waiting for you to be present, and slowly, carefully, you start to let them in. Not all at once. Not with grand confessions or dramatic breakdowns, just truthfully. I'm not okay today. I'm struggling. I need support. 3 sentences that feel impossible, until they don't. And when you finally say them, you realize something. The world doesn't end. People don't leave. The sky doesn't fall. Instead, you feel lighter. Because for the first time in a long time, you're not pretending. You're not hiding. You're not performing. You're just being. And being, messy, imperfect, honest being, is the most radical act of self-love you can offer yourself. Closing reflection. You've spent so long saying "I'm fine" that you forgot what it feels like to be anything else. But here's the truth. You're not fine. And that's okay. You're not detached. You're afraid of being known. You're not weak. You're protecting a version of yourself that's been hurt too many times. But the moment you stop saying "I'm fine," you stop living half alive. You stop hiding behind walls built from old wounds. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. And you start existing, fully, honestly, imperfectly, because you were never meant to be fine. You were meant to be real. And real is messy. Real is complicated. Real is beautiful in ways that fine will never be. So the next time someone asks how you're doing and that familiar lie starts to form, remember this. Your pain is not a burden. Your honesty is not a weakness. And your truth is not too much. It's just yours, and you deserve to speak it. If this spoke to you, stay. You're not the only one learning to be seen.